Assalamu alaikum. In this session, we are going to discuss various concepts that are related to the concept of foreign aid. So basically, the general theme which we'll be following is the concept of foreign aid in the context of developing countries, and the specific things are going to be three, which in particular we are going to discuss in this session. These three things include: why do the developed nations or the rich countries or the donors give aid? This is what we are going to discuss. And then we will move on to the discussion that why the recipients, the countries which accept aids, what are the reasons behind these countries that motivate them to take aids from the donor agencies or donor institutions or donor countries. And the third thing we will be focusing upon in detail is the significant role played by the non-governmental organizations, that is the NGOs, in the context of foreign aid. So one may think that we have seen that over the last so many years, the overall magnitude or the volume by which the foreign aid has increased, and it has penetrated in various diverse parts of the world, particularly in the context of developing countries. This is what we observe. So what is basically the motivating factor behind the developing nations or the donor countries and agencies that motivate them to give this huge amount of money in the form of foreign aids to the developing countries or to the areas where money is required or some other type of help is required? So theorists have come up with various things as the major causes or the major reasons behind these donor countries, that these are the factors on the basis of which or because of which they decide to give foreign aid to the developing countries or to the less privileged areas in this world. So one major reason that has been identified is the political motivation. So if we get into the history, we see that in late 1940s, right after the World War II got over, so we saw that the Western countries were war struck. The overall economic situation wasn't good at all. At that time, United States of America realized that probably they will get this impression and this concept of communism may develop if we let the communist countries to help economically to rehabilitate and reconstruct, so that the process of rehabilitation and reconstruction should continue in Western Europe because of this World War II. So in order to overcome this fear that they need to reduce this impact, the growing impact of communism in this part of the world, United States of America decided to give a huge amount of fund to the Western countries that was utilized in order to help them in restructuring themselves. So that particular plan is called the Marshall Plan, and we saw that because of this extensive supply of money that was provided by United States of America, these countries managed to overcome their problems, and they got back onto the track, and the development process once again started properly, and we saw that right now they are considered to be as one of the major rich and developed countries. So we see that sometimes because of this political motivation, countries decide to help different parts of the world, and this is one of the major motive or one of the major reasons behind giving foreign aids to the less privileged parts of the world. In addition to that, in addition to the concept of Marshall Plan, we have observed that United States of America since 1940 onwards until now has been helping various developing countries in various form. So we see in Pakistan that extensively USAID program is working and is operational in different areas, particularly wherever they see that the level of education is very low in those parts of Pakistan, or they try to bring in certain initiatives in order to help Pakistani people so that they bring in some positivity, positive feeling towards USA, because we have this negative sentiment against USA because of the drone attacks and lots and lots of other unacceptable things going on in our country. So in order to overcome this negative sentiment, they have tried, because of the political reasons, to like change the perception of individuals by spending a lot of money in the form of USAID or some other programs that are being run under different aid programs by USA. So it's not only Pakistan where USA is focusing upon because of the political motivations. There are certain other parts of the world also. And it's not only exclusively USA which is working for the political motivation in the form of aid in different parts of the developing countries all across the globe. We see that there are several other countries also who join the same group, in which funds or aids are provided to the countries where the implicit concept or implicit idea behind giving this huge amount of money in the form of aid is the political reasons. And these countries include Japan, Great Britain, France. So the objectives have been the same as we discussed when I took the example of United States. But there are several exceptions, such as Sweden, Denmark, Netherlands, Norway, and perhaps Canada can also be put in the same list, where they are providing funds in different forms or aids in different forms to the less privileged areas in the world in order to help them in order to overcome their economic problems and other problems, where this political motivation is not dominating at all. But overall we see that there have been various examples which we see that the major idea behind giving funds or giving aids to the people living in the developing countries in particular, where the exclusive motivation of providing the aids was to strengthen their political ties or to change the image in a certain positive way, or to facilitate the government in order to continue with whatever type of policies they are following, and these policies are always in line with the likes of these superpowers or the developed nations or the rich countries, which give funding to the government so that they should pass on this money to the people who deserve or who are having certain type of issues or certain problems. So the basic idea behind all this discussion is that when we look into the reasons in order to explore why the donor countries give aid to the developing countries, one major reason that is pretty dominating is the political motivation. And in the current scenario, we can say that majorly the developed nations or the rich countries give money in the form of aid to the developing countries, and they keep their own national security interests in mind, or the basic or implicit idea behind making these expenses or passing on this much money to the developing country is basically the protection of the national security interests and other motives also. And this is how the political motivation can be explained. Another major factor that can be considered as the reason behind giving aids to the developing country is the economic reason or the economic consideration. For example, I would like to mention Japan, that they always give aid to the countries in particular who are concentrated in the Asian region, and the focus is upon the development of those countries in particular where Japan is having extensive investments or where Japan is exporting its material, goods and services are being sent to these parts of the world. So in order to facilitate them or strengthen them in economic terms, what Japan does is that it provides aids to these countries that are concentrated in those in the neighborhood of Japan, and eventually the basic idea is that by strengthening them, it makes it sure that whatever investments are going to be made in those countries, there should be some sort of increased profitability, or the absorption capacity can be increased by spending more money in the form of aid on the people living in those parts. And another important aspect is that it exports a lot of material to these countries also. So if by providing them aid, the overall economic growth level can be accelerated, then definitely that could facilitate indirectly to increase the overall magnitude of exports of Japan towards these countries as well. So in addition to that, we see that when we look into the various aspects pertaining to the economic considerations why aid is provided to the developing country, another important thing that has been identified by the experts in this domain is the foreign exchange constraint. And people have identified that it could be because of the two-gap model, that the aids are provided to these countries where they find gaps in terms of either the savings or the foreign exchange. So before moving further to the next points, it is important here to slightly digress upon this concept of two-gap model. So by two-gap model, when we talk about a developing country, we observe that the savings are always lower as compared to the overall investment potential or the investment opportunities that are present in a developing country. For example, Pakistan के केस में हम अगर देखें कि जो भी investment opportunities exist करते हैं और जो saving हम करते हैं, overall जो हमारा saving ratio बनता है, that saving ratio is sufficiently smaller as compared to the investment opportunities that are available in Pakistan. So we see that there is this saving gap. This is how we define the saving gap. So in order to overcome this gap, saving local sources से या domestic sources से जो saving हो रहे हैं, they are sufficiently lesser as compared to the investment opportunities that are available in our country. So in order to fulfill this gap, foreign aid will be needed, will be required. और जब countries, donor countries foreign aid देंगे, तो ये जो हमारा gap है, ये suppose investment opportunity, जितने opportunities available, उन सारों के ऊपर investment करने का potential जो है, suppose that is given by this level. And the savings that are available in this country based upon the domestic resources is suppose this much level. So यहाँ और यहाँ में जो फ़र्क है, that will be provided by this gap can be met by taking foreign aid from the donor countries. और इससे आपकी जो gap है वो satisfy होती है और आपकी जो overall output level है that will be increased. ये तो one gap हो गई जिसको हम saving gap बोलते हैं. The other gap is the foreign exchange gap. We see that again in the context of a developing country, जो foreign exchange reserves हैं with a developing country, they are not very big और वो हमेशा से बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं होते, relatively कम foreign exchange reserves होते हैं developing countries के पास. So अभी हमने सोचा कि growth के लिए it is essential to go for the industrialization. तो industrialization के लिए definitely you need to import a lot of machinery, equipment, scientific type of machinery, etc. कोई software चाहिए, कुछ भी इस तरह की चीज़ें जो आप industrial सेक्टर को ग्रो करने के लिए आपको रिक्वायर्ड हैं. लेकिन जो फॉरेन एक्सचेंज के रिजर्व्स आपके पास पड़े हुए हैं, दे आर नॉट सफिशिएंट इनफ to finance all the imports that are required for the industrialization process taking place in a developing country. So this particular thing will be known as the foreign exchange gap. कि आपका जो opportunities हैं industrialization की process को expedite करने के लिए, उस अपॉर्चुनिटी को सीज करने के वास्ते या उनको टेकअप करने के लिए, उनको यूटिलाइज करने के लिए आपके पास जो फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व है दैट इज इनसफिशिएंट. सो अगेन donor countries can provide foreign aid in order to fill in this gap, and this gap is called the foreign exchange gap, and this is the second gap. So simultaneously in a developing country we see that there is this presence of saving gap as well as the foreign exchange gap. So what countries do is वो दोनों की intensity को consider करके decide करती हैं कि हम जो foreign aid लेने जा रहे हैं, and again we live in a world where the resources are scarce. जितने भी हमारे अनलिमिटेड वांट्स हैं या अनलिमिटेड डिमांड्स हैं, हमारे जो resources हैं that can be utilized in order to satisfy those unlimited wants, they are scarce as compared to the size or the magnitude of the demand. So what happens eventually is that in the context of a developing country where we see that there are a number of issues, so उसको two gap model में हम डिस्कस करते हैं कि कोई भी डेवलपिंग कंट्री के सामने दो तरह के गैप्स एग्जिस्ट करती हैं. वन इज द सेविंग गैप, द अदर इज अ फॉरेन एक्सचेंज गैप. सो बेसिकली गवर्नमेंट जो है वो डिसाइड करती है कि कौन सी वाली गैप, सेविंग गैप या फॉरेन एक्सचेंज गैप ज़्यादा सुवेयर है, और हमारे जो ऑब्जेक्टिव्स हैं या हमारी जो मेजर पॉलिसीज़ हमने बनाए हैं किसी भी कंट्री को ग्रो करने के वास्ते या रन करने के लिए स्मूथली, उनके लिए कौन सी वाली गैप को हैंडल करना ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. तो उसके अकॉर्डिंगली वो एड लेके उस पर्टिकुलर गैप को ओवरकम करने के लिए या सेटिस्फाई करने के लिए पैसे स्पेंड करते हैं. So we see that in the developing countries we experience these kinds of bottlenecks, and these bottlenecks can be can be overcome by using foreign aid money either to decrease the saving gap or to decrease the foreign exchange gap. And this is how the economic motive can be observed कि आपने देखा कि हमारे जो टू कैप मॉडल में फॉरेन एड की प्लेज अ वेरी सिग्निफिकेंट रोल इन हेल्पिंग द डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज इन ऑर्डर टू ओवरकम द टू टाइप्स ऑफ गैप्स दैट आर देयर, ऑलवेज देयर. इनमें कौन सी ज़्यादा स्वेयर है वो गवर्नमेंट डिसाइड करती है और लगाती है कि हमारा जो फॉरेन एड है वो किधर स्पेंड होने जा रहा है इवेंचुअली. Another argument which has been given when we look at the reasons why donor countries give aid to the developing countries, we see that जो foreign aid है that always kind of helps और स्पर्स या इनिशिएट या मोटिवेट करती है ग्रोथ के प्रोसेस को. बाय व्हेन वी हैव मनी इन आवर कंट्री इन द फॉर्म ऑफ फॉरेन एक्सचेंज, तो वहाँ डेफिनेटली इफ़ इट इज़ यूज्ड इफेक्टिवली एंड एफिशिएंटली, तो वहाँ इन्वेस्टमेंट जो है वो इट विल टेक प्लेस, सम सॉर्ट ऑफ मनी विल बी स्पेंट इन दैट कंट्री जो कि बाहर से आया है. तो जब भी एड आता है तो वो इट ऑलवेज if used effectively, I'm emphasizing upon this thing in particular, if it is used effectively, then aid always induces growth, और growth जब भी होगा तो naturally उससे employment opportunities ज़्यादा हैं और लोगों का जो per capita income है वो increase करता है, तो जिसकी वजह से हमारे savings they will go up. So whenever aids are taken from the donor countries and they are used efficiently in a developing country, the aids always induce growth, and then they also help in increasing the overall saving rate. And we know that जो हम जिस तरह की different तरह की aids देखते हैं that are provided by the developed nations or the rich countries, या major जो हमारे पास aid आती है वो OECD countries से आती है. हमने देखा कि इट्स नॉट ऑलवेज इन फाइनेंशियल फॉर्म, वो हमेशा पैसों की फॉर्म में नहीं दी जाती. इट समटाइम्स फॉरेन एड इज गिवन इन द फॉर्म ऑफ टेक्निकल असिस्टेंस ऑल्सो. सो समटाइम्स आपकी जो गवर्नमेंट्स हैं वो बताती हैं कि हमारा जो फलां सेक्टर है वो बहुत नाइसली प्रॉस्पर नहीं कर रहा, वजह कि हमारे पास हमारे जो लेबर फोर्स है उसके पास उस वाली सेक्टर को नाइसली डेवलप करने के वास्ते या उसको एक्सपैंड करने के लिए जो स्किल चाहिए वो मासेस के पास नहीं है. सो इन दैट काइंड ऑफ अ सिचुएशन द डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज मेक अप अ प्लान to facilitate the developing countries in order to expand their industrial sectors by providing the technical assistance. So usme they send the teams, and the teams then train the laborers of a certain industrial sector, or they provide education to the people, and then there could be some engineers coming or doctors coming from one country to another, जो कि जैसे आपको याद होगा कि जो बड़ा वाला अर्थक्वेक आई थी पाकिस्तान में, सो उसमें हमने देखा कि क्यूबा से बहुत सारे डॉक्टर्स की टीम ने आके यहाँ जो नॉर्दर्न एरिया में अर्थक्वेक स्ट्रक लोग थे उनका ट्रीटमेंट करने के लिए दे वर्कड हियर फॉर सम टाइम. Similarly, we often hear this, that doctors come from India, doctors come from Sri Lanka, doctors come from China, engineers come very frequently, they come from China and they are involved here for the construction, engineers for the construction of roads and the Silk Highway, etc. So we see that these type of technical assistance is provided to the developing countries, and it's not always necessary that whatever foreign aid you are getting as a developing country, it should always be in the form of foreign exchange or in the form of monetary terms. There can be some sort of technical assistance also that can be provided by the developed nations to the developing countries in order to facilitate them with the process of economic activity, and in order to accelerate, they kind of contribute positively to accelerate the growth process taking place in these economies. At the top of it, we have got another argument that is considered to be one of another reason behind donors giving aids to the developing countries, and that is corresponding to, that is related to the absorptive capacity. So हमने देखा कि जो developing countries हैं उनमें potential होता है और उनमें money, उनके पास sufficient money in order to seize those opportunities या exploit that potential is not available. So what these countries do is, या government of the developing countries assess करते हैं कि हमारे पास जो absorptive capacity है या पैसे को absorb करने का जो potential है ताकि हम कोई investment undertake कर सकें वो कितना है, और उसके accordingly they request the donor countries to give them the money. So in order to fully utilize the absorptive capacity of these developing countries, the donor countries or the donor agencies provide foreign aid. And we also see that sometimes if the foreign aid comprises a program which includes training or providing education to the people living in a developing country, then we see that absorptive capacity जो है उसको वो training और education को provide करके उसको enhance भी किया जा सकता है. So by enhancing them and then by funding के वहाँ कोई ऐसे के investment projects undertake हों, such opportunities can be executed that can facilitate people by first providing them with the skill and then by providing them with the necessary investment or money so that they should like set up their own enterprises and go for some higher level of education, and at the same time a higher level of income can be earned. So हमने देखा कि जो foreign aid है उसके पीछे another motive can be that it helps the recipient countries or developing countries to satisfy their potential, and they can this particular type of money can also be used in enhancing the absorptive capacity in the developing countries. So that is another argument. इसके अलावा हमने देखा कि जब हम economic incentives को या economic motivations of foreign aid को देखते हैं तो उसमें एक जो aspect है उसमें self interest का concept भी हमें dominating देखने को मिलता है, and this self interest का concept can be observed or can be nicely understood when we look at the various aids जहाँ हमारे पास aid जो है वो tied aid होती है. So by tied aid का मतलब कि आपको जो डोनर कंट्री है या डोनर एजेंसी है वो आपको इंस्ट्रक्ट करती है कि हम आपको ये पैसे दे रहे हैं, फॉरेन एक्सचेंज दे रहे हैं, मगर आपने जो इंडस्ट्रियल सेटअप इस पैसों से लगाना है उसके लिए जो रॉ मटेरियल होगी या प्लांट्स होंगे, जो इक्विपमेंट मशीनरी चाहिए आपको, वो आपको हमारे कंट्री से इंपोर्ट करना पड़ेगी. तो इस तरह से वो फॉरेन एड तो दे रहे हैं मगर एट द सेम टाइम दे आर क्रिएटिंग डिमांड फॉर द machinery, equipment, type of material, whatever is being produced in their own countries as well. So tide जो assistance है या tide aid का example हमें USA के बहुत सारे ऐसे के aid के programs में भी नजर आता है, where they put a binding on the borrowing countries or the countries who are the मैं इसमें borrow नहीं बोल रही, recipients बोल रही हूँ aid के context में, because aid is that amount of money जो आपको वापस नहीं करनी, which is different from loan. So अगर आप loan ले रहे हैं तो then what you are going to do is आपको हर हालत में उसको वापस करना है, you need to repay, उसके ऊपर इंटरेस्ट भी लगेगी, मगर हमने डिस्कस किया था कि उसमें कमर्शलाइजेशन की एस्पेक्ट नहीं होगी. सो अभी जहाँ तक एड का ताल्लुक, दिस इज द अमाउंट ऑफ मनी और द ग्रांट्स आर कैन बी अकाउंटेड फॉर इन द सेम हेड. दिस इज द मनी विच यू डोंट हैव टू रीपे. So abhi we see that in the context of USA there have been various USA aid programs in which they put a restriction or a binding on the recipient countries के जो आपको इन projects को, इस पैसे को इस्तेमाल करने के लिए जो भी आप projects को या ventures को establish करने जा रहे हैं, उसकी technical assistance के लिए you are bound to take the expertise of the people who are working and they are the experts that are located and based in USA. So this is how they kind of like put restrictions on the donor countries ताकि जिस तरह से अभी aid तो उन्होंने दी, मगर उसके साथ ही में उनको खुद को भी कोई economic benefits मिलेंगे, क्योंकि उनके जो residents हैं they will be able to make money when they will come to the developing countries, provide their expert opinion or expertise और skill को share करने जा रहे हैं, तो definitely वो they will be able to earn and they will take this money back to their countries. So उनके अपनी money की जो अपनी उनकी अपनी country का जो income है that will go up. So this is how in a way we can see that the major reasons behind providing aid to the developing countries are majorly two. One is the political motivation and the other is the economic consideration. So हम देखते हैं another important thing which is related to the same thing is कि ये तो हमने donors के साइड पे देखा कि उनके पीछे क्या वजह है या causes हैं जो कि उनको motivate करते हैं कि वो इतने ढेर सारा पैसा developing countries में देते हैं, मगर साथ ही में it is important to see कि हमें understand करना चाहिए कि जो recipients हैं यानी कि aid लेने वाली countries, उनके पीछे क्या factors contribute कर रहे होते हैं जो कि वो aid लेना शुरू कर देते हैं. So another the biggest reason behind this particular concept of that helps us in understanding why the recipient countries receive or accept aid. सबसे पहली वजह जो हमें which is very easy to understand is कि developing countries के पास shortage of funds, scarce resources का issue बहुत ज़्यादा dominating है. So हमेशा अपनी economic development के process को promote करने के लिए they need more money, because the developing countries see that जहाँ जो areas बहुत important हो सकते हैं development के लिए, उस country के लोगों के लिए, उस country overall की economic activity को proceed करने के लिए, उन एरियाज में बहुत शॉर्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट होती है. जैसे हमने देखा कि डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज़ के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में इन पर्टिकुलर हेल्थ सेक्टर्स और एजुकेशन सेक्टर्स बहुत ज़्यादा डेवलप नहीं किए होते, लैक ऑफ फैसिलिटीज़ आर देयर. सो द रैशनल कैन बी कि हम कंट्रीज समझती हैं कि अगर हमें बाहर से कोई एड्स मिल जाएं तो वी विल बी एबल टू प्रोवाइड बेटर फैसिलिटीज़ टू द पीपल लिविंग इन दिस कंट्री इन टर्म्स ऑफ द एजुकेशन एंड इन टर्म्स ऑफ हेल्थ sector, or there could be 110 other reasons as well. But this is the basic idea is to promote the process of economic development. They are in need of money. So aid में चूँकि आपको whether वो आपके पास tied aid आ रही है या उसके ऊपर कुछ restrictions लगे हुए हैं, या it could be either in the form of money or it can be in the form of technical assistance. So they always keep on looking for such opportunities जहाँ उनको किसी ना किसी तरह से कोई ना कोई एड मिले और जिसको वो इस्तेमाल करके अपने डेवलपमेंट प्रोसेस को एक्सपीडाइट कर सकें या डेवलपमेंट प्रोसेस को डेवलप कर सकें या बना सकें या उसको उसमें कुछ एनर्जी लेके आ सकें. सो एंड द थिंग which has been dominating the discussions whenever we see the economic significance or the implications कि हम एड जब डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज लेती हैं तो उसमें एक अहम जो चीज़ देखी जाती है दैट इज़ कि डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज़ के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में इट हैज़ बीन ऑब्जर्व्ड कि जब वो एड्स लेते हैं ढेर सारा मनी इज़ प्रोवाइडेड टू दीज कंट्रीज़ ताकि वो अपने डेवलपमेंटल प्रोसेस को इनिशिएट कर सकें या डेवलप कर सकें, मगर हम देखते हैं इन द रियल सेंस कि बहुत सारे दुनिया में ऐसे डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज़ हैं जहां एड्स लिए गए मगर उस मनी को उन्होंने प्रोडक्टिव एप्लीकेशन में नहीं इस्तेमाल किया. व्हाट दे डिड वाज उन्होंने क्या किया, उसके लिए नॉन डेवलपमेंटल एक्सपेंडिचर के तौर पे उसको इस्तेमाल कर लिया. कि जैसे कि हमने देखा कि बहुत सारे ऐसे कंट्रीज होते हैं जो एड्स लिए और पार्लियामेंट बिल्डिंग्स को बड़ा कर दिया, उनको रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कर दिया, उनका रेनोवेशन के ऊपर ढेरों के ढेर मनी स्पेंड कर दी, या अपने लग्जरी वाले लाउंजेस बना लिए एयरपोर्ट्स के ऊपर, एयरपोर्ट की साइज़ बड़ी कर दी. जब आप एयरपोर्ट की साइज़ बड़ी कर रहे हैं या पार्लियामेंट की बिल्डिंग को नया बना रहे हैं या MNAs MPs के हॉस्टल्स बड़े हाईटेक फैसिलिटी वाले लग्जरी बना रहे हैं, लग्जरी हॉस्टल्स बना दिए आपने, तो आप जो आपका लो इनकम कैटेगरी में इंडिविजुअल बैठा हुआ है आप उसको फैसिलिटेशन नहीं प्रोवाइड कर रहे. तो आपकी जो अगर लार्जर कॉन्सेंट्रेशन ऑफ योर पॉपुलेशन इज फॉल्स इन द लो इनकम कैटेगरी एंड यू वट एवर एड यू हैव रिसीव्ड यू हैव स्पेंड दैट मनी इन द कंस्ट्रक्शन और द रेनोवेशन ऑफ एयरपोर्ट्स and such places that are only utilized by the people who are living in the high income, who are falling in the high income group, then आपका जो true sense में you won't be able to provide or facilitate the masses and the money gets wasted. So we see that overall if you look at the effectiveness or the performance or the way this foreign aid is spent in the developing countries, we see that mostly lots and lots of money gets wasted, and even if the money gets spent, then it is spent on the non-developmental activities such as reconstruction of huge infrastructures, etc., and the money is not spent upon empowering or changing the economic conditions of the poor or helping, it is not spent on improving the overall social and economic conditions of the poor, or it is not used in order to equip the poor with the skills which are needed by these individuals so that they can come out of this vicious circle of poverty. So that is the dilemma, and we see that, however, there are very few such cases where we see that when the country heads got aids from the donor agencies, they spent that money in a very effective way in expediting the process of growth and by providing maximum facilitation to the people who actually needed this money. So हमारे पास ऐसे के examples भी दुनिया में आते हैं जहाँ मगर unfortunately such cases are very few in number. So I would like to take the example of Mozambique in this case. हालांकि Mozambique की जो गवर्नमेंट है वो माइनॉरिटी में थी और अभी एड लेके उन्होंने बहुत अपने पैसों को इफेक्टिवली और एफिशिएंटली इस्तेमाल करके अपने डेवलपमेंटल प्रोसेस को एक्सपीडाइट करने में इस मनी को इस्तेमाल किया, एंड वी सॉ दैट ओवरऑल द इकोनॉमिक कंडीशंस ऑफ मोज़ाम्बिक इम्प्रूव्ड कंसिडरेबली. सो स्विचिंग ओवर टू द अदर थिंग, वी सी दैट समटाइम्स एड जो है वो जो रिसिपिएंट कंट्रीज हैं उनमें पॉलिटिकल लेवरेज को enhance करने के लिए भी इस्तेमाल की जाती है. That if suppose the governments want to continue with their power, यानी कि वो चाहते हैं कि हम पावर में रहें for a longer span of time, और हमारा जो ऑपोजिशन है उसको हम वीक से वीक करें और ताकि वो कभी भी हमारे कंपटीशन पे नहीं आए या गवर्नमेंट में नहीं पार्टिसिपेट करें हमारे साथ आके. So we have observed that there have been certain instances in this in the history we observe that the foreign aid money is utilized by the recipient countries in order to weaken the opposition powers and in order to enhance the their time period so that they should stay longer in power. So another ineffective utilization of foreign aid is that they spent the government spent this money instead of on the developmental process or on expediting the process of economic growth in the context of a developing country. They utilize this money in order to strengthen their own governments, in order to weaken the opposition, and so that they should continue ruling this country for a longer span of time. So this is how we see that there are good things associated with taking foreign aid, and there are a number of bad things also. So again, the discretion is with the government, that how it chooses to utilize this money which is given to this particular country or a certain country in the form of foreign aid. So again, we can see that because of the advancements in theory, because of the advancements in various strategies, we need to work out with those different types of techniques through which people should come up or develop such programs in which they should come up with certain methodologies or certain ways of how to make the foreign aid more effective in actually facilitating or expediting the process of growth in the context of a developing country, and by devising such ways through which the leakages or the inefficiencies can be reduced to a minimum. I'm now switching over to the third thing which I mentioned in the beginning that we will be talking about, and that is the role and the contribution made by the non-governmental organizations, which are also known as the NGOs in the context of foreign aid. So we have been seeing that from 1970 onwards, we see that there was a huge improvement in the overall penetration of these NGOs. Like by NGOs, we mean these are the organizations which are not set up by the public sector, or they are not the affiliated bodies of the government. They work on their own, or they are the independent bodies, and the objective of these organizations is not to make money or not to make profits. By not to make money, I mean that they whatever profits they make, if they end up in making a certain amount of money in the form of profits, that as long as the agenda of these organizations is concerned, they are not supposed to take the profit and divide it among the different participants of this particular organization, or we can't say the owners, the people who have got together and formed this NGO. The profit cannot be distributed among the people who have structured or formed this particular organization. This needs to be re-spent or reinvested, and whenever we see a certain NGO, it is established on the basis of a certain objective. So when we look at the various types of NGOs that are operating in different parts of the world, we see that some of the NGOs' objective is to provide economic support and social support to the refugees. Some NGOs, they are for the protection of pets or animals, for example, or there could be certain NGOs that are there for the enhancement of the education level of people in certain less privileged areas or the poor countries or poor areas. And there could be a number of NGOs which we see that they provide low cost credit facilities to the low income category people. So we see that the overall types of NGOs that are operating in this world, they have multiple different types of objectives. So they fall in different categories, and the motive behind setting up these organizations can be very diverse, starting from the protection of environment to food protection, etc. Because of this wide acceptability and the huge level of good things that they are doing, we see that there is an overall huge increase in the overall volume of the NGOs, or the number of NGOs that is increasing very rapidly. Particularly we see that a huge growth has taken place of NGOs in the last 10 years in particular. Again, the activities are very diverse. And I would like to take the names of some of the very famous NGOs. Some are very vibrant in Pakistan also. So we have got CARE, we have got Oxfam, then there is Habitat for Humanity, World Vision, the World Wildlife Fund, which is also known as WWF. So we see that the overall scope is very diverse. They are there to protect animals, they are there to protect the refugees, they are there to protect the immigrants, and there could be certain NGOs that are operating very successfully in certain areas where there are large concentration of people that are either war struck or they are struck by certain natural disasters such as an earthquake or flood or famine or something. So again, we see that the overall growth that has been observed of these NGOs is that whatever different types of aids that has been generated and provided to the developing countries through various NGOs, the total amount that was provided in the form of aids to the developing countries through NGOs was less than 1 billion in 1970, but it has now gone up to another value which I have to share with you is that by 2008, the amount which has been provided through NGOs to the developing countries in 2008 went up from less than 1 billion in 1970 to 23 billion, which indicates that there is a huge kind of expansion, or the advantage of these NGOs is growing in a very rapid way. And another important thing is that the number of beneficiaries that exceeds 250 million people in the developing countries that have been beneficiaries of NGOs in one way or another. So this again indicates that this is a very vibrant area, and whatever people are associated with NGOs, they are playing a very significant role in improving the overall growth process or in helping people to come out of the different types of problems they are in, and they are like working, or their benefit is not restricted to the human beings only. They are providing their services to the protection of animals, also to the protection of the environment, environmental capital. So they are very much vibrant in protecting the or stopping or reducing the pace of environmental degradation by bringing awareness among the people. These are the various type of ways through which they can protect the environmental degradation, or the environmental capital can be restored or rehabilitated or protected by people by taking certain actions. So the major objectives or the major advantages of having NGOs have been categorized as two. So one is that because they are less constrained by the political imperatives, like they do not consider themselves as some people who are very powerful or they have got order giving kind of a status. Therefore they satisfy or they meet their objectives in a better way as compared to what the governments can do. So because governments have this high level of power attached with it, so the way governments do their operations or they perform their functions, that is considered to be a little bit more authoritative as compared to the way NGOs operate, or NGOs try to pass on the funds or provide some certain type of services such as educating people or training people or providing some basic information about the usage of certain things, etc., such as in the environmental capital or pets or something. So that, like, it is considered that the way they execute their things, the way they render their services is less authoritative, and because it is less authoritative, therefore it becomes more efficient in fulfilling their objectives, and the overall effect or the positivity or the type of facilitation they provide to the people is considered to be relatively more useful as compared to if the same things are conducted and done by the government sector. So this is one advantage of having NGOs. Another major advantage of having NGOs is that because they are the people who work with the people for the benefit of whom they are operating. So this helps them in becoming a part of that system where they are working and where they are trying to facilitate the people with. So the overall like if that gap is not there, the communication gap is not there, and the authoritative power, as I mentioned earlier, is also not there, then this feeling of suspicion and cynicism which is there among the people, particularly if they are war struck or they are struck by some natural disaster and they are upset and they are fearful or they are scared, and the scare can be there for the governmental functionaries. But since we have observed that the people who work for an NGO, they like kind of go down to the lower limit, or they become very friendly to these people who are in trouble, and they provide maximum facilitation and maximum help to these people. So that feeling of fear or the cynicism is not there. So they also have this assurance that they will not run away by taking our money or something like that is not there. So therefore, that also contributes positively in making this concept of NGOs or their workings more effective in fulfilling or in meeting their objectives. So that is another advantage which needs to be taken into consideration when we look at the overall effectiveness or the deeper penetration, or when we look at the magnitude of people that is being facilitated by various activities that are being conducted by NGOs. Another important dimension which we need to look at is that when we look at the overall functions of various NGOs, we see that the type of skills that are developed by NGOs that are operating in the developed countries, and the type of skills, the type of know-how which the people working with NGOs in the developing countries is concerned, we see that there is a huge gap in the two. So there may be a possibility that in order to make the things better or make the process of development faster in the developing countries, it is necessary that at least the skills which are the level of skill and the type of techniques which are utilized by the NGOs, the people working with the NGOs in the developed nations, if they get passed on to the people who are working with the NGOs in the developing countries, then the overall effectiveness of NGOs and the extent of facilitation or the number of beneficiaries would certainly go up, and that can increase remarkably, and the overall contribution made by NGOs can further be enhanced, and we can see that some positive and considerable improvements can be made in expediting the process of growth in the developing countries, if that kind of a transition or passing on of the skills and expertise and know-how can be provided to the people living in the developing countries, particularly the people who are associated with the NGOs in the developing countries. So in this session, we have discussed three major things. One is that that is something which is very rational to think that what could be the reasons that the donor agencies or the rich countries or the developed nations provide a lot of funds in the form of aid, and they don't even need it back, so they give the aids to the developing countries. So we discussed that there are two major reasons behind that. One is a political reason and the other is the economic reason. So the idea is that basically they see their self-interest, and in order to help their self-interest or in order to fulfill their self-interest, they develop certain strategies, and under those strategies they give these aids to the developing countries. And again, the aid can be in the form of money, the aid can also be in the form of the technical assistance. And we also saw that the aids can be untied and tied. So if it is tied, then the country who is taking the aid is bound to take a certain type of technical assistance, or it is bound to buy the raw material or the machinery from the donor country. So this is how the economic objectives are achieved by the countries which give aid to the developing countries. Then we discussed that there are several things that are there with the recipient countries and they try to satisfy those objectives by taking aid. And one major reason which we discussed was that they focus upon enhancing or developing their process of economic development in their countries, and therefore they request the donor countries to give them aid so that they should spend this money in facilitating that development process. So we also discussed that there are certain leakages that are associated with this concept, that it is not always necessary that when the aid is taken from the donor company, a donor agency, donor institution or a donor country, it is always spent in a very efficient way. Sometimes we say that it is utilized in the production or in the renovation of some non-developmental type of things, and the money gets wasted, or because of high level of corruption that is prevailing in certain developing countries at a very high level. So because of that high level of corruption also, this money gets wasted, and the true objectives or the true benefits cannot be derived. Then we discussed the contribution and the significant role played by the non-governmental organizations in the context of foreign aid. So we see that the overall penetration and the overall different types of fields in which the NGOs are operating now is getting diverse and getting richer with time. So we see that since they try to work with those people for whom they are working, so that authoritativeness or that fear of power and things like that are not there. Therefore they turn out to be a better option as compared to the government functionaries, that they come up with, they satisfy their objectives, or they come up with facilitating people or benefiting people who are in trouble and who are in line with what they are objecting for. For example, if they are operating in order to provide a small amount of credit to the small farmers or the people who are setting up little enterprises. So these NGOs are become very closer to them, and they take into account the data from them, and they interact with them at a greater extent. So that facilitates them in order to fulfill their objectives in a better way, and therefore they turn out to be relatively more efficient as compared to the way we observe how the government functionaries operate in, particularly when we look at the developing countries. So they turn out to be more productive, but somehow when we look at the overall macroeconomic variables that indicate the development process in the developing countries, we can see that if the contribution made by NGOs in the developing countries can further be enhanced, the overall effect, the positive effect of this effectiveness of NGOs can definitely further expedite the process of economic growth taking place in several parts of the world, particularly when we look at the developing countries. Thank you very much.